Hello, and welcome to Revamped, a rewatch podcast that revisits my top favorite shows and movies. I'm your host, Brandon Alexander, joined by my co-host,
Courtney Autumn.
Venture with us as we set our sights on the infamous Hellmouth to cover 90s cult classic, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Follow along from the beginning, spoiler-free, as Courtney views the show for the first time and I revisit the series for new takes and a fresh perspective on its narrative.
Each season, every episode, in order, we will follow Buffy Summers and her friends to examine their character development, the show's underlying themes, along with its major story arcs, all while engaging in conversations, sharing our own authentic thoughts and feelings to what's unfolding before us.
So sharpen your stakes, load your crossbows, and join us as we explore the supernatural world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Let's get into the episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Revamped. Today we are going to be covering Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 3, Episode 15, Consequences. I almost want to be like Steph and Cara because they have the whole thing on their podcast where they go, Consequences. I almost said it like that, but then I'm like, no, don't. It aired February 16th, 1999, written by Marty Noxon and directed by Michael Gershman. Courtney all came in here whenever we did the test audio, and she's like,
Time to hate Faith.
well, as a continuation to Bad Girls, in this one, the aftermath of Faith's tragic mistake pushes Buffy and her to a breaking point. As Buffy tries to help her face what they've done, Faith begins slipping deeper into denial, defiance, and darkness. The Watchers Council tightens its grip, the mayor sees an opening, and the fragile bond between the Slayers starts to fracture beyond repair, culminating in the moment that will change them both forever. No particular guest stars this episode, except for one that we've seen before. We have James G. MacDonald returning as Detective Stein, aka Detective Vaughn, as I always like to call him, because, trauma. When we watched it together, obviously, like I've told people, they know it by this point, we got together and watched Bad Girls and Consequences back to back, and we're just both feeling heavy. I told you I kept the whole time like swallowing, and I was like trying to clear my throat because it was like stiff and like my chest was giving me anxiety and shit, and I'm like, I feel like I'm in trouble. I feel like I'm Faith. Time to hate me too. Is that where you fall at? Do you feel like you kind of starting to hate Faith?
Yes, I do.
Why?
Yeah. I think, interestingly enough, I appreciated the texture kind of thing that she brought to the show, especially because she is so opposite natured of Buffy, so we get this day and night kind of difference. And to see someone who's kind of the bad girl slayer, it was fun. And it was kind of necessary in a way, because you start getting to a place where you feel too much sympathy for Buffy because she feels everything so deeply. So nothing that she does goes without consequence. And when you're dealing with someone like Faith in this episode, you see that she very much is resisting consequence or any kind of really backlash toward an action that she's done. So the fact that she spent the entire episode not just really diminishing in a way what she did, but also running from it and then blaming Buffy for it. And then the thing with Xander. I don't even want to go there yet. But all of that just really, it showcased the worst side of someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
When they become completely unhinged, completely irrational, completely incapable to face any kind of remorse or accountability for something terrible that they've done, whether an accident or not. There's still, taking accountability would be way better. And I put this in my notes somewhere that I think in any regard, she would have been better off listening to everyone.
Yeah.
And I feel like she would have taken the load off of herself, the weight off of herself, and she would have, in a way, been released from the burden, but she would have first had to face it. So it's interesting to see her do everything in her power to not face this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so much so that she does take us to the point where you start to really question whether you like her anymore or not. And how can you by the very last scene that we're left with? At that point, you're just like, well, fuck this bitch.
Yeah. So my first statement in my notes says I'm so frustrated with Faith, like watching the series.
Mhm.
And this is obviously coming into somebody that's watched the show forever. And I know everything that happens as well too. So like just her arc in general.
Oh,
Um
I don't even want to know.
you're gonna find out. But that's what I wrote in my notes. So feel like it might be, and you might agree that it's less about like full on hating her. It's just like we're frustrated with everything that she's had basically
Yeah.
offered up to her to be like, hey, you have a choice here to make all this better, and you're just literally disregarding all of it. And no matter where you come from in your past, you can always, no matter who you are as a person, have the ability to heal and move past that. And she's still choosing to self-pity and kind of stay in the instance that she's always been at, and like the position
Yeah.
in life, and not taking I don't know, it's almost like she's biting the hand that feeds her, if you want to use that old analogy or whatever they want to call
100%.
it, adage,
Yeah.
whatever. But even though that like that level of frustration is there, I feel like other than my heartbreaking for her in this season, just because it starts out really cool having this new Slayer that, it hasn't died in 2 episodes like Kendra did. And she's like pairing
Mhm.
up with Buffy, and they seem to be really getting along for the most part, no matter what, even if they've had like moments, they came back from it. That's why I felt so indifferent yet happy whenever we got to that part in Amends, when Faith shows up for the Christmas dinner and stuff, and actually doesn't go back to her, her bullshit.
We finally see a vulnerable side to
Mm-hmm.
her, which is so rare to see in the show,
Yep.
especially from her characters. And maybe hate is a strong word. I don't want to say that I hate her, but it is disheartening to see someone that you grew so fondly of, and that we've had those instances, like you're saying, where she does lean more into her vulnerability. And those are the favorable parts of her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like she's so stubborn, she's so hard headed, and she's so dedicated to be like a rebel without a cause that she refuses to just let that be more of her personality and be more soft, I guess, in
Yeah.
a way. And yeah, so hate is not maybe the proper term,
I like
but
it
I
though,
am
because it's like I mean it, but I don't mean it as a grand scale. It's not like 100% level hate. It's like, oh, 14%
no.
of me is like, oh, I can't stand this bitch. Why are you doing this?
Yeah,
Like,
no, and I definitely don't want to go into any kind of like slandering territory like we have with Xander
and
in
then
the
2 episodes from now,
past.
she's all nice and loves everybody again. And then you're like,
And not even that, like she's allotted to do like I'm here for it without liking her at this moment. I am here for the change in the story and
mm-hmm,
in the plot line.
good.
I'm here for that part. But no,
Yeah.
it's just I'm disheartened. I'll put it that way. So I'll retract that I hate her and I'll say that I'm disheartened by her behavior and by the character that she ended up showing this entire
Mm-hmm.
episode. Like there was not one instance where we even were able to have a breath of relief from her
Absolutely.
shittiness.
Yeah.
It was just shitty.
I'd have to agree. And I love when we have something of this level put before us to deal with, because then it creates a real problem for the show.
Mhm.
Basically, and we don't know what happens past this point. We've just seen the smallest grain of like what's potential at this
But
point.
we know what the
We have the
possibilities might
feeling
be.
like, yeah, it'll be interesting to get into the next couple episodes. The next one, that's another reason I low-key want to watch, especially the part of that episode, like a scene with Faith specifically. But it is like nice how they raise the stakes in this way to say, oh shit, hold on, this might be a foe for Buffy this season, and it's another Slayer, and she's going down this dark road. All of that stuff, it makes the whole episode and the storytelling for the season that much better. And obviously, coming off of last episode, we were talking a lot of like callbacks to episode 7 and like the themes for this episode. So now we're really getting introduced to like the possibility of like, oh wait, this is going to be some sort of problem. Obviously, the mayor is our overall quote big bad for this season, and we've really got that beat into our heads 15 episodes
Mhm.
in. So we know he's the bad guy. He's the problem. Something's going on with him that's going to obviously culminate further. But at this time, we know that now Faith has joined forces with him in whatever way capacity. No spoilers, but that's at the very end of the episode. We're here to record it, so it is what it is. But it's a cool turn to take, because we didn't expect any of this. And that was a question I wrote for you too. I was like, did you have any expectation? Not really an expectation, but did this blindside you? Did this make you be like, I did not expect this at all for Faith, like to show up at the mayor's door? Obviously you would never have guessed that, but to know that Faith was going to spiral that much and
I
end up
mean,
here, like against possibly the
no.
regular team.
I don't think I expected it. Maybe by time we're like halfway through the episode and I can see her desperation to not confront this whole situation or the consequences of it. I feel like the further we get into that and the more you see how desperate she is to avoid anything to do with it, as far as like, potential trouble, even a conversation about it that's healthy. She doesn't want to have that. And I think maybe halfway through the episode, I could see something that she would be willing to go through lengths that we don't realize, that we're probably not going to be proud of later. So I think I saw something terrible happening, and I think the only thing that shocked me, and I think maybe what I anticipated the most by the end, is that she leaves Buffy in a vulnerable situation, which I was surprised that she didn't, because she could have. So I think that's the only time anything surprised me after a certain point, which is sad because she was helpful.
That's good. That is a surprise.
I do and I don't, because obviously you hope, like, okay.
Yeah, this episode really does leave you all feeling hopeful too. And like, once again, we'll talk about kind of the final scene we get between that moment and then into Buffy and Giles speaking on her, which kind of leads me into the next part that I want to say. Something I enjoy about the episode. Like, you get that, and then you're turned right into the ending scene. And so you're like hopeful, but then you're like, oh fuck, but now again, that is diminished. I don't feel that way anymore. What I was going to say was, you don't miss a beat for Buffy saying that, like, I'm in love with Buffy as a person this episode, because as usual, she's counting Faith as a friend, and she's had this, she feels tied to her in a completely different way. That's why there's been this parallel, this mirroring between Buffy, Faith, Buffy, Willow, while Willow's jealous over Faith, and this is causing like an instance between Buffy and Willow, especially in this episode even. And it shows that she's got this connection with Faith that's obviously different. It's a separate energy. Faith is the only one now, just like we were talking earlier in the season, a few episodes ago maybe, about their connection and them both having this shared energy of being the Slayer. They can understand each other at a different level that just the rest of them cannot. Everything that is the same as far as when it comes to the stakes. But being in love with Buffy as a person in this episode, I love how she tries to help Faith so much. Like, we need to help Faith, and she's finding any means necessary to really do as such, sourcing out everything that she can, even when it comes down to the council later being like, no, I don't want them involved. They're just going to fuck shit up. Like, obviously, especially after that is exactly what happens and stuff too. It's a whole thing. So I really love Buffy standing out for Faith. But aside from that, I think it's cool to see what we get from Angel as well, because I know we joked about it, and I was like, Detective Angel, like over here, like he's out here skulking in the shadows and doing his little thing, but he's also,
I know, he's just lurking.
But if you pay attention to it, throughout the episode, the times we see him like outside, like he was there whenever Xander was getting choked out. He was there whenever the cops were there questioning Faith. He's been keeping a watchful eye on Faith specifically. And I don't know if that was instructed by Buffy or he's just been like paying attention because of the blood thing on Buffy's hand and all that stuff. But I think it's cool to see him taking this responsibility in himself to say, like, I'm going to figure something out on my own, and which kind of saves Xander's ass. Like, of all people,
100%.
Xander is damn Angel, you know? But for
ironically
him to be the one that's paired with her in this moment and at the very end before everything starts to like really go south, I just like Angel being the person that Buffy trusts the most to be like, hey, you sit with it, and they both agree on that, you know? And I'll talk more about that obviously as well. I found myself like writing too that I was really surprised that, because I kind of forgotten, I knew that Mr. Trick's journey was through here, but I was like, he lasted all season up to now. You know, like he's been the second up to the mayor and stuff. And like,
I started to wonder if he was just going to forever be there. You know what I mean? Like he was always just going to slip away somehow from any kind of actual 2K per slay.
Yeah. But it's also kind of interesting too, like how Faith basically winds up being his replacement now that like he's not there anymore. She becomes that. So
yeah. And for some reason, I think that when that happened and my brain immediately was like, I felt like that meme where you see like all the calculations going on in the background on the board that are like confused or, yeah. I felt like that my brain was doing that, and I think as soon as he got dusted, I think my brain instantly was like, she's gonna go. And
really, you know, oh, I would have never guessed that myself,
because now he has no one and she knows it, and she's in trouble, and it's the only way she can get out of it. Yeah.
The only other thing I really wanted to mention, I said it last week, is like a little breadcrumb for you, a little anticipatory. When they started the season, they were going to end Faith's journey at the end of Bad Girls, and she was not going to be on the show anymore. I read on Screen Rant specifically, but this is like on multiple sites so everybody can like vary it out. Like most people know this obviously in the Buffyverse as well, but in Whedon's original vision for Faith, she would have been written off in a very dark and depressing way, and the plan was for her to guest star in 5 episodes, and after accidentally killing Deputy Mayor Alan Finch, obviously mistaking him for a vampire, she would have committed suicide. ̲ģi̥̥ğı̥ had impressed Whedon, though, with her performance as Faith across the season. He decided to change the course of her character, and the accidental death of Alan obviously instead became a breaking point, which led Faith to join forces with the mayor rather than the event that would have led to her tragic suicide. Apparently, when Buffy comes to talk to Faith to have that whole closing talk, Faith was supposed to be hanging in her apartment, having hung herself in her apartment, in her motel, her dingy little motel. Yeah, hung herself dead. And I'm like, curious if that like had it been the way. I mean, obviously, like I said, dark and depressing, it's very much so. But like to then handle suicide in a way on the show, and then also show the suicidal possibility of a Slayer having killed herself because whatever her burden got too strong. Like obviously, that's probably happened somewhere in the past with another Slayer. I'm sure. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So
that's interesting, though. Mm-hmm. Dang.
I figured that'd be interesting to say before we got sad. It's very sad, but I'm glad we didn't get it because it opened up the door for the rest of the season too. And then this moment and
now
stuff like
she just killed herself metaphorically by surrendering herself to the other side.
Courtney will cover the metaphor section this episode.
Exactly.
No, but for real. All right, what do you say we face some consequences and walk through the episode?
Let's.
All right, great. We open in a dream sequence of Buffy as her underwater struggling to surface for air, drugged down by dead Alan Finch. Once finally resurfacing, breaking free from him, and taking a breath, she sees Faith, who pushes her back down, holding her underwater. Buffy awakens from said dream, finding her mother in the middle of the night, watching a news report for breaking news on Alan Finch's body being found by fishermen. The mayor giving a statement he won't rest until this person is found and brought to justice. Joyce noticing Buffy behind her, calling out this to be terrible as Buffy looks on despondent. Shortest cold open we've ever had on the show. Just saying. We fade to black.
That is true.
And we cue the Buffy theme. I laughed whenever, because at the end of the episode, Buffy's like, or Faith's like, I took the body, weighted it, and dumped it. There is no body. They're not going to find anything, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, literally in the first 5 seconds of this, they're fishing that motherfucker's body out of the water. And I'm just like, Faith. And then it called back to Giles later in this episode, where the comment he makes about Faith after she betrays Buffy. And we didn't even talk about that, thank God, honestly, because we can have a whole moment with that later. Yeah. But that's like a whole thing there. Oh my God. But I thought that was so funny. I was just like, damn, bitch, you ain't as good as you thought. But well, everybody knows that.
No, and I'm just like curious, how many times have you done this before? Have you done this before? You know, like she's speaking very confidently in the fact that she knows.
I think that's why she got caught, or not why she got caught, but why it happened so fast, because she had not done that before. So she didn't know how to cover her tracks truly well. It's a body though. Like you got to put more stuff on it. I don't know. I don't know personally. Just saying. I'm not Faith.
I said you gotta put more stuff on it.
Yeah, I mean, she's talking about weighting it. Like, you gotta put more weights on it, I guess. Go back to that store you broke into and steal all the, like, weights that were in the corners and stuff besides the weapons. I don't know.
I swear sometimes the people who, like, really dedicate the time to dig really deep graves for bodies are the ones that probably are more likely to not get caught right away. I mean, you're talking about literally like the next day or the same day.
Potential. Who knows? I don't. Become a graveyard caretaker. Start digging up the people. I'll go work in Sunnydale. I'll have a full-time job with bonus hours.
You will.
Well, at school the next day, we see Buffy, Faith, and Giles in the library as Wesley is tasking the Slayers to look into the death of Deputy Mayor. Buffy trying to persuade avoiding this. Faith stating that they can do it because, you know, fake it till you make it is her motto. Giles agreeing that this is a human, let's let the police do it matter. And Wesley having the inkling of knowing better reminds he's the one in charge. Cordelia comes in to collect books on psychology, aka psychologists, Freud and Jung. I think it's Jung. That's what Anna says anyways, but it looks like it says Jung. And meets Giles the next generation as well, aka a man with 2 last names. aka Wesley, aka the new Watcher. And I love how she all calls it out. And Buffy's like, because he's like, does everybody know about you? And she's like, well, she's a friend. And Cordelia's like, let's not exaggerate. I'm like, damn, Wesley's gonna be like, oh, so you're a bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Except
I don't
not.
know. Apparently he likes that.
Well, apparently, because, you know, we get a little flirty action from both of them until Wesley learns that she's first word jail, second word bait. And the girls leave to go patrol and look into the death as ordered by Wesley because, you know, super or natural, he wants to know what's up. And I like that quote. How he's like, well, whether it's super or natural, I want to know what is up. He didn't say what is up, but, you know. But I like how they like broke the words apart because obviously usually they're dealing with supernatural and he's like taking the super away from the natural. I'm like, play on words. I like it. That's the one thing I've liked about Wesley so far. I did want to say for like 2 seconds too, the context of faith obviously is like perfect foreshadowing here. Whenever we see like a lesson in the show, as we've seen in the past, Cordelia asking for these books feels like a little bit of the show acknowledging, yeah, we're in a more of a realm of like psychology, moral psychology here. And in metaphor, Cordelia is that outsider and that shadow side to Buffy, the more human traits. And if we're dealing with more human stuff, we're like I said, kind of dealing with like moral psychology here and all of these like things that we would deal with whenever it comes to the psychological factor, if that makes sense. I know just most people probably wouldn't even pick up on that, but I'm like, if you were somebody like Anna or somebody that's really into psychology, you would start breaking down in your mind already and being like, oh, I know that this is a thing, especially maybe even watching the show through to analyze it like a future time or a third time round or something, paying attention to those little like pieces and particles they put in there. Buffy and Faith move into an adjacent class to discuss Buffy's feelings on not being able to fake this investigation and how they need to fess up. Faith's more concerned with going to jail the rest of her life and reminding Buffy that it's not just her on the line. Buffy was there too and is a part of this all the way, walking out on her too. And I was like, damn, she's like cut her down real quick. She was like, but I mean, obviously the scene lasted longer than that, but I was like, they're supposed to be going out here to do this, but like Buffy is not already, we're seeing holding her composure well. She's still feeling really icky about this. And that's something really interesting to deal with Buffy this episode, because while Faith is the polar opposite of wanting to push this as farther away, it's boiling inside of Buffy and just wanting to burst out at any moment. Like she's like, I have to tell somebody, but also it's just showing how Buffy wants to do right and Faith wants to do wrong. You know, cliche as it sounds, that's exactly what's happening here. Buffy then heads over to the lounge to sit with Willow and attempt hanging out, and Willow's already looking like she wants to channel the dead man's party avoidant energy we loved so much, but not. Immediately asking where Faith is because she saw her in the school, and I was like, oops, shade. She's like, where's your new best friend Faith? Like, girl, if you know, she didn't say that, but you know, that's what she gave. And then I like how Buffy tries to chat with Willow, but they like interrupt each other, and she's like, oh, you go first. And she's like, oh, I actually have to leave right now because one, I don't want to be around you because I'm feeling some type of way, but two, I also actually inconveniently or yet conveniently have to go meet Michael to de-rat Amy some more, or to make some more attempts, because once again, Amy is still a rat and they're still working, you know, 4 episodes later on how to get this bitch back from being a rat.
Bro, Chetty Prince Jr.
Y'all, I hope any of y'all listening saw the Instagram story that I posted, I think yesterday. This wouldn't be yesterday now because we're recording this way too preemptively, but I posted the she's all rat photo from like, it's like she's all that, but it's got a rat like woman in a dress. That shit was funny. I was like, what? And then I was like called back immediately, and it does say Freddie Cheese or Chetty Prince Jr. Is that what it says on the label? I'm dead. I love how that's what you think of right now.
I can't remember. The other name is fucked up too, but I can't remember what it is now. Fucking but Amy. Obviously it like references cheese or something.
Well, Willow leaves, and I love Willow too. Like it's awkward, but it's also kind of like a fuck you, but without being a fuck you, because I don't think Willow has like pure fuck you energy. But she just goes, so see ya, and gets up and walks away. Like, what the fuck?
Which I think in my head I was like, this is what Willow being a bitch is like, you know, because she doesn't have the actual ability to be like, hey, fuck off, mate, you know, or something like you or I would. But this is literally the definition of what it looks like to get a fuck you from Willow, is her just dismissing the fact that you had anything to say at all. Like,
yep. That shit was funny.
It's like, all right, see ya.
Bye. Literally. That night in the alley where Alan was killed, we then see cops and crime units are working that scene, and such as Detective Stein is questioning a lady who heard a scream. I never thought into that before, but I was obviously doing a little bit of research and just really paying attention. The scream she heard was whenever Buffy says, Faith, no, apparently. Like, it didn't click in my head. I was like, who'd she hear scream? I was like, Alan didn't scream. She says she heard a scream, but Buffy yelled out loud. So this is right outside that alley. So I guess that woman was inside in her bedroom trying to, like, chill, watch Buffy and stuff on the WB. And she was like, you're interrupting my show. And we have Angel off in the shadows watching, having a flashback in his mind to the night that he saw Buffy, because, you know, right when the detective was smudging the like blood off of the dumpster, he smells that from afar, and he immediately in his mind calls back, which is so fun. Like, for the element of vampire, he's having this whole cognitive memory thing where he's like, that was the blood that was on Buffy's fucking hand, and he's already putting two and two together. That's why we call him Detective Angel, because he's worked the case, he's done, he knows what's up. I'm gonna watch Faith the rest of the episode, he said, because I know that if this guy is dead, and now I'm pairing it with Buffy was hanging out with Faith, the whole thing that was going down last night with the, you know, bloated ass motherfucker in the pool, all this other shit, like, that was a problem. He is already putting the pieces together, so he has connected the dots. He is full on dotted. There ain't no connecting at this point. He's done did it full circle.
He has the whole
He's
picture.
working the case. Detective Angel is on it. Then we go over to City Hall, and the mayor is shredding documents, which we are told are documents of a paper trail that Alan Finch left behind in his office on all the mayor's dirty dealings. And I love this too, because obviously when Buffy and Faith go in there later to look for the stuff, these are all the files that are missing out of his cabinet and shit. And I never really paid attention to that before too. I just always got roped into like him talking about how usually when I use the shredder, I'm happy and it's not doing it for me, you know? You know, and the next in my script, I have the mayor also tells Mr. Trick about how his frown is upside down, that Alan would have all of these, and how the shredder typically brings him joy, but it's lacking that effect. But I get wrapped up in that though, and I don't think about the fact that like he left a paper trail, so that kind of adds to the energy of he was out there looking for Buffy and Faith so he could double cross. He was keeping a trail on the mayor, so that way if he had to do him wrong, he could. He was just trying to keep on the government payroll. Deputy Mayor Alan Finch was just trying to keep his coins. Job. Exactly, he was trying to pay for his.
He knows that being on the Slayer side doesn't pay.
Exactly. But yeah, he was obviously out there looking for them in some way, shape, or form, and obviously going to double cross the mayor. I'm going to always call that canon. He also has the horrible thought himself that Alan was going to betray him. And he's like, oh, now that's awful. Like, I feel bad even thinking that. I'm like, but that's what was going to happen.
I know, right?
And then Trick,
like, well, that should make him easier to mourn or grieve, you know.
Yeah, once you find out, if you do find out. And then Trick offers up files that he's collected on the deputy's autopsy report.
The deputy mayor had wooden splinters in his wound, struck right through the heart with a sharp pointed object. Now, word is someone was fighting vampires not a block away from the scene. I mean, smart money says it was a Slayer did this job.
The mayor wondering if he talked to them, and Trick alluding that, well, if he did, he possibly said the wrong thing. And then the mayor's frown is now turned back to the version that he wants it to be, voicing how this is exciting, aka sunshine and roses to him, a Slayer up for murder 1. And then he chuckles to himself because he has to do his iconic laugh. But I thought that was funny.
He looks so creepy.
He is so
when
scary.
He was laughing. Yeah, and it's just weird. He's one of the, I think I appreciate him as an actor because of that, because you rarely see those people that are so expressive that just by like channeling a certain, Angel's the same way. You know, like we got to see such an extreme different version of acting when he was Angela. So it's like, holy shit, like the fact that he can flip from one to another in the same scene, even where he's like kind of normal, and then all of a sudden, even though he's laughing, you can just still sense this like overall evil to him, and it just really makes you paranoid about what all his motives are.
I love how you're really tuning into that now and loving that yourself, because that's what I've been talking about. Like, I really like about his character. He's like got the dual personality and like the flip back and forth. Who's for a root beer?
Very Jekyll and
and I love that. I also wanted to note, just saying, like, back in the same thing we were kind of talking about, like, Trick saying that he's like, I'm guessing he said the wrong thing. He's kind of, in a way, almost standing up for Alan. He's like, well, I mean, if he was out there and he talked to them, and obviously he's now dead, he clearly might have been like now in my mind it would be twisted like this, where like he's making the mayor in his mind is now thinking that Alan went out there and was like, you better leave like us people alone, like I'm a mayor stan, you ain't fucking with him, like you fucking with him, you fucking with me, bitches, like that type of shit, you know. Or maybe like he was out there trying to coerce the girls towards the warehouse where the demons were, so that way they could all kill each other, like the mayor quoted that he would like.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really understand that part, because I'm like, if he's trying to double cross and he's trying to give them valuable information, that would in turn hinder some of the mayor's plans potentially, or anything like that, or expose the motive or whatever the fuck is going on, you know, whatever it is, they would then have the facts. I'm like, what could he possibly say wrong?
I know, that's what I'm saying, especially the
to
fact.
warrant that, you know, like he would literally have had to, like, I don't even know what he could have done. Like you're saying, he would have literally had to go there and be like, these are the facts, and just letting you know, don't fuck with me and don't fuck with anybody, because
Literally,
like
though.
we're a cult.
Which it's so funny that we get the twist of like the two going on here, because like they're obviously ripping up all the files that he had on them too. So they're kind of like, was he, wasn't he type of thing, which kind of like puts it out there, because no one ever specifically ever says that he was, other than Buffy in a moment being like, I think he was out there looking for us. You know what I mean? That, like that type of
Well,
stuff.
shit, if you really think about it, he was probably terrified for his life, because not only was he initially just dealing with the mayor on his own, who's an unhinged fucker to begin with, but then you have the element of adding Mr. Trick to it, which then is like, okay, now you have a vampire, and then the mayor's gone through some weird ascending thing where he's like immortal. I don't know. I don't understand. He's not destructible. And so now that all these things are happening, if you're just an ordinary person in the middle of these two crazy fuckers, don't you think that you would be seeking some aid at some point, like if you have rationale in your head? And so I don't blame him for being like, you know what, I'm in the perfect place because there's 2 slayers in town, and I'm just gonna surrender the information and pray that I don't die.
That's basically, I think, what he was trying to do. He felt like he was going to.
He was probably trying to be like, here's the info, but I need you to protect me in exchange, because they're going to come for my throat now.
Oh, 100%. If they had caught him, they
And
definitely
then
would have disposed
instead
of him.
it was Faith that came for his throat.
That just goes to show what kind of morals that Deputy Allen, which is that kind of pulls into when you're watching Bad Girls after you've seen the whole series, or even just up to now. You feel for like him. You're like, damn, he was really just an innocent guy. Every scene we saw him in the whole season, he's always like more lighthearted, and you can definitely tell he's outside of the mayor and Mr. Trick. He's not, he's like there, but he's not really there. You could tell he wasn't invested in this, and he's kind of like has higher morals.
Yeah, he feels almost like an innocent bystander. Yep. Like he just ended up at the wrong place, wrong time to even get involved with the mayor to begin with. You know, and now he's just like on the ride.
So that's why it's kind of like, I wanted out, which is very unfortunate, because in like mob mentality and things like that, oftentimes like to get out, or even like, you know, in some really strong circles that are covens and stuff, we saw it in The Craft. Whenever you have that whole element of I want to leave the group and betray them in some way, you usually end up dead or like really cast out in some way, shape, or form. So that's Faith.
Yeah, well, that's why I said cult, because that's what it's giving, that energy, you know, where people are like, oh, this was fun in the beginning, but now I'm terrified for my life and I want out. And everyone else is like, okay, you can get out. And we'll kill you.
Well, we then see Buffy and Faith entering City Hall, which is so funny. Did they just walk into City Hall and they like didn't see them? I know they got the cameras, they noticed them on later and all that other stuff, but I'm like, you just go up in here at nighttime in the evening, like once again, just like school and all this other stuff. I'm like, okay, I mean, guess you're there. How did you not run into the mayor in the hallway? How did Mr. Trick not smell you?
They love to do urbexing this time. Active urbexing.
100%.
Infiltration.
And then once in the office, Faith is joking about how boring Alan seemed to be, and Buffy not on board. We do get a moment too where Faith fondles that picture of Deputy Mayor and reflects to Buffy like how he came out of nowhere, and she agrees. And then Faith kind of snaps out of that state immediately, like toughening back up to snap. And then she says,
whatever. I'm not looking to hug and cry and learn and grow. I'm just saying it happened quick, you know?
But it's like an interesting moment too, because we kind of see this internal struggle beginning with Faith here, how she's sympathetic one moment as if she's showing remorse, but at the sight of actually connecting, feeling this or sitting with it, she pulls back immediately to that hardened state, who is more avoidant and disconnected. Like there's this battle going on with her, whatever it is, and we're physically seeing it, visually seeing it in the episode take place before, which again, for Eliza Dushku, great acting as Faith, like the Faith that we've come to know now from the beginning to now. Like she's really grown so much as an actress and character on the show. That's why in my first notes, I think I said that Faith makes me frustrated, because it's this back and forth with her all episode. You know what I mean? So it's just like a whole thing.
No, and I agree, but I like the element that we did get to see her internal war going on there for a second, because at least that humanizes the situation just a little bit, whereas if she was completely avoidant and didn't have at least those small pockets of,
you would just be like
a sense of humanity or moral compass, you know, then you would she would be, I mean, she is very much bordering a sociopath, in my opinion, but this at least allowed us to be like, okay, well, she's processing it, and I do understand an element of initial shock factor, And I think even later on, Willow says, or someone says, like, don't you think she's just shocked? And you want to believe that as a response emotionally to something like this. So I like that they put this there, but I hate that that's not how it transpired later.
Yeah, no, it is nice to see like that Faith has these like what you're calling little pockets, because it keeps you liking the character. Like it makes you be like, oh, like she does have a soft side. Why can't you just? I don't know. It almost like fuels that frustration in a good way for somebody watching the show. They're like, keep getting this back and forth tether of a pool to like either side, and you're like, oh, like I kind of like this idea of her being bad, but also she's like good, and I also like I want her to admit this, but then also like I kind of like this. Like I don't know. Like I said, it's just very back and forth.
Well, and it makes it more relatable, because I think anytime that we would do something that we might feel guilty about or embarrassed over or anything, you have that internal struggle where maybe you are avoidant initially and you don't want to deal with that at all, and then eventually you might be exposed to more factors of how this impacted other people or something, and then you start really thinking about it and you're like, oh, like this is getting really real now. So it makes sense that like in the motion of her humanizing him, because they're in his stuff and they're seeing all these things that he had, that he did, that he touched and all that. Yeah, so it's kind of like I understand it, and I like that it makes it relatable, but you definitely leave with a sense of hope.
Yeah.
That feeling of relatability and that feeling of her going there for those few moments kind of escalates and evolves into her eventually taking accountability, and it doesn't, and that's why we hate
Faith. Well, that also kind of feels into the energy that we'll talk about a little bit later whenever she's sitting with Angel, and Angel's like knowing what can happen when you've taken a human life and when you have this power and all this other stuff, how it can easily go south, and he already understands that Faith's got this taste now for it, like he tells Buffy and stuff like that too. So we also have that to be worried about whenever we're really assessing it after knowing kind of almost everything, The girls literally find nothing, though, and comment, that must mean somebody didn't want them proving anything, especially since Buffy feels that he was in that alley looking for them and not there by chance. They go to leave, having to hide watching the mayor and Trick walking down the hall together. And I love this because obviously this puts right in front of their face. Then Buffy herself is just like, oh, so the mayor of Sunnydale is like a bad, shady motherfucker, which right out on Main Street, they walk and talk about that fact of how he's a black hat, and, how it's shocking. And Buffy noting that she didn't get the bad guy vibe off him. And then Faith confirms that 9 times out of 10, people don't always show you their true face. And then Buffy claps back on Faith, knowing a lot about that. I was like, ooh. I
know. There was a lot of those moments in this episode where I was like, oh.
I know, right? It's about to be a girl fight. I was like, oh, shit. And then Faith wonders, what the fuck is that supposed to mean?
It's just look at you, Faith. Less than 24 hours ago, you killed a man. And now it's all zippity-doo-dah. It's not your real face, and I know it. Look, I know what you're feeling because I'm feeling it too. Do you? So fill me in, because I'd like to hear this. Dirty. Like something sick creeped inside you and you can't get it out. And you keep hoping that it was just some nightmare, but it wasn't. And we're going to have to figure out... Is there going to be an intermission in this?
Buffy wants her to agree to tell Giles, but then Faith demands that they are not telling anyone. It'll all blow over soon. And if not, Faith can hitch a freighter because they ain't fancy, but they get you gone. Buffy wondering if she's just okay to see the dead guy in her head for the rest of her life, and Faith claims that she's not going to see anything because, she doesn't give a fuck. Voicing that she is sorry. She missed the mark last night, and about that guy, she really is sorry. But it happens. And I love just that one line of statement where she physically looks at Buffy and as if to convince her, like, as part of her case to say, let's not tell anybody, let's let it blow over because this is a casualty, which she's about to get to, saying, I am sorry, I missed the mark. She has admittance right here. Once again, breadcrumbing us, making us feel like there's this other side of Faith that's going to open up and be like, everything's going to be okay. They're fucking with our heads the whole episode, too. They're doing fucking moral psychology on us as a viewer. Yeah. Because we're like, oh, Faith's going to make it through this. Exactly. They're putting all the hope in our body, like we were talking about at the beginning. But then she also adds, like, how they've saved countless people, and Buffy's even stopped the world from ending. And although she thought, she's like, didn't you stop the world from ending? She's like, in my book, that puts us in the plus column. And then they discuss, again, Alan's potential dirty dealings, but also how he was possibly coming to them for help, and Faith laying it out simply for Buffy about how they are better than everyone else because they are warriors, calling it Buffy's loss that she's going to cry over some bystander who got caught in the crossfire, and then dipping on her. Love this whole sequence just in general, though, because you get this back and forth between them to where they're kind of talking about it finally. This is what you would have expected besides I don't care at the end of last episode. You know what I mean? Faith is opening up a little bit. She is having this conversation, but she's still wanting to push it to the side, whereas Buffy is not. And I feel like they should have just went to Giles. Faith should have been like feeling trusting enough, but Faith's so scared she's going to get in trouble and go to jail and have all these other repercussions that she's going to have to deal with. And she's going to be like, well, damn, now I've officially hit rock bottom. I've been at bottom the whole time, but now the rocks are here. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, I ain't even in my dingy hotel or anymore. I'm now chilling over here in fucking jail. Cool. Whatever. Little does she know there's a whole lot worse things than jail when it comes to what the Watchers Council will do to you, because then you're going to be under their bullshit fucking in England and their, whatever their version of jail is.
I know, right?
Buffy arrives back at home. Joyce opening up the door for her, clearly expecting her. I love how Buffy go to touch the doorknob and Joyce opened the door. Damn, she was watching all that shit. And it is revealed that Detective Stein is in there with her. We get a montage of him questioning both Buffy and Faith about their whereabouts the night before during the murder. Both stories being a little choppy, while decently I put being together, because like it was put together okay. Like they both kind of almost told the same story as almost they like had set. And I mean, how many times have people ever done this? I've totally done this with like, especially like my sisters or something growing up, being like, all right, this is the story from when our parents got home, how that vase got broken. We weren't playing Buffy and throwing stakes around the house. The cat that we don't have jumped up and I was about to say a raccoon came in and Joey exactly. But like you get your story straight together before you tell a lie, you know what I mean? So it kind of seems like that's what they did, or they just decided to whatever. Because for both of them to say like, oh, I was with Buffy, I was with Faith, we watched a movie at her hotel, oh, we just watched TV like infomercials or whatever. They both had a little bit of difference there, but they were both saying that they were together at Faith's. So because obviously Buffy couldn't say I was at home, because Joyce would have been like, no, you weren't. But we all know Joyce based on
and I am curious about that, because I'm like, did they conspirize this plan together in advance, or do they both just have enough common sense to where they're like you said, you know, like we can't be at Buffy's because even if Joyce wasn't there's the element of possibility of her coming home at some point and seeing something or seeing us or having verification that we were there. And if I put her here at the room, then no one else can vouch but the two of us. So it's like, did they just have enough common sense to on the fly be like,
one
you know
or the
what?
other, obviously.
This makes sense. This is the only place we could be, the only thing we could be doing to where no one could have seen us. Like, we are each other's alibi only. You know what I mean? Like, there's no one else to be placed there.
Part of me wants to give kudos to Faith and credit to her to say that she would be that way, but on the flip side, part of me really doesn't think Faith is like good at thinking in the moment. I know she's had instances in her life where she might be able to quickly think on her feet, but I think this is more coordinated than that. We didn't obviously get to see that scene, but I think in some way, shape, or form, Buffy and Faith made mention on like, hey, if anybody right now at this point, like, or Faith told her, like, we were at my apartment, like, you know, we're not telling Giles, so this is the story, just to say, like, whatever, because they found the body. So if they do come to question us, this
I know, I was like curious. I'm like, did I miss that somewhere in another episode?
All,
in the last episode, where they like, okay, we were with each other at your room.
As we're doing right now, this is what we're supposed to believe, I guess, as the viewer. This is what we're supposed to cook up in our own mind. So clearly that's what happens. One or the other. He does leave though, because he doesn't feel like he's getting any information out of them. And like, you feel like safe in this moment too. And then obviously as he leaves Faith, we get the glimpse of Angel lurking, having been there tailing him, watching things for himself as well. And I guess he's not fully connecting the detective what's going on in the whole grander scheme of things too. So he's like, I think I've got enough information. Like, so not enough to pin them as we get later on in the episode, you know, but he decides to kind of give up, because like this one scene, like this is like everything's going downhill from here, but they just had to put this little scene in here, like of like him continuing the like working the case stuff, because we really don't really see or hear from him again other than this one scene. And then obviously we had the return of him too, like we talked about whenever we were watching it. That's the same detective that came to talk to Buffy whenever she accidentally killed Ted, which very much, you know, we talked about it, metaphor and themes and stuff last episode too. This really parallels that whole theme and the storytelling for that. Buffy goes to Willow's house now in the ugliest pink fucking coat I've ever seen. That's Buffy Fashion Watch today. I'm not here for that fucking Pepto-Bismol outfit that she's wearing. It's not cute. Also, it's 92 degrees outside, Buffy. Like, no. She needs to talk to her, which is good too, Willow says when she lets her in. She's like, I've been letting things fester and I want to be free of those vibes. Buffy agrees, and Willow starts explaining how she understands the bond between Buffy and Faith and how it makes sense how they would get along. Buffy already starting to tear up too, noting it's more complicated than that. And Willow immediately snaps at her. She's like, and that's exactly what the fuck ticks me off. It's this whole Slayers only attitude, because since when would not understand? Like, all of a sudden I'm not cool because I don't kill things with my bare hands. And then Buffy bursts into tears at the phrase. It's like one of those times when you're like, ooh, that was not the thing you say. Like, it's like when people don't know, but something's going on with you. We've talked about this in the past.
Of course. No, it's like saying
Like,
your mom to someone and their mom just died. And you're like,
that.
how was I to know that?
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But she bursts into tears, and Willow like completely caves, rushing in to comfort her, which I love because that says so much for Willow.
Oh, Buffy, don't cry. I'm sorry. I was too hard on you. Sometimes I unleash. I don't know my own strength. It's bad. I'm bad. I'm a bad person.
Buffy cuts her off to say that she's in trouble. And cutting to some time passing and Buffy having told Willow everything about what occurred and how Faith is acting about it. Willow letting her know that she needs to tell Giles anyway because he will know what to do. So now we can feel better about Willow and Buffy. Like, this whole scene is cute. I'm glad that like Buffy finally has been able to tell somebody. And if anything, Willow is the most trusting. You know, Willow ain't going to tell nobody, especially if Buffy says don't go tell nobody. She's going to let that sit on their plate. But now, like, she doesn't have this huger weight on her chest. Like, it's still huge, but it's not, the R isn't there. It's not huger. It's not a big thing. It's something little. It's not something big. But they can feel better about each other now too. We get a round of cutscene transition magic over to the library as Buffy enters. The clock reads 9:25 p.m. by the way. We're always talking about what time is it, what day is it. We don't know on this show. And I noticed the clock in the background and it clearly states 9:25 on the fucking pinwheel. And I was like, why is Giles not at home? Why is Buffy coming to the library to find him?
He's hardly ever
like,
at home
why
anymore,
couldn't this scene take place at his home? I'm like, why did it need to be the library?
Maybe he's afraid that if he leaves the library that he'll lose his right to the library altogether since he's not the watcher. They'll fire him too since, you know, what's his face? He's going to have to act as a second librarian. Like, what else excuses there going to be for him to be in the library all the time? So maybe Giles got to get the fuck out of there. So he's like, you know what? I live here now. So
Courtney, as if this school needs excuses for people that aren't supposed to be here to be here.
I mean, you are right about
Anyways.
that. That's true.
Buffy calls out for Giles and he comes out of his office and she starts to clear her conscience, admitting that she's kept things from him before, she knows, but isn't able to get very far in this statement because Faith steps out from his office behind him. Buffy tries to cover up what she was about to say too, and she's like, oh yeah, I've been not doing my schoolwork or slacking here or slacking there. And then Faith looks at her and she's like, it's okay, Buffy, I told him. And you can tell Buffy gets a little bit of like a breath of relief, but also is still very hesitant. She's like, told him what? You know, like, girl, what'd you tell him? I need to know so that way I know what the lie is. Again, we need to go, can we go talk outside real quick like we did the other day about what our story is? Faith then claims that she had to, looking away from Buffy to comment,
He had to know what you did.
What I did? Giles, no. That's just not what
I
happened.
don't want to hear it, Buffy.
No,
I don't want to hear any more lies.
you can't be serious. You're setting me up.
Get my office now. Faith, I'll talk to you in the morning.
Giles, please, you have to.
Now.
holy shit. Buffy is then stunned. Faith is trying to set her up. Giles yells for her to get in his office as Faith leaves, avoiding looking at her but apologizing to Giles. Because, you know, she has nothing else to say. Basically, that's why Faith, like, leaves and feels better about herself. She's like, I'm sorry, I just lied on Buffy. Like, she's not saying sorry about the whole situation, like you would be led to believe. She's basically like, I'm a fucked up person. That's what I'm saying sorry for. So you can't apologize, Faith. Like, well, here we are. But also, like, I have the reaction for you for this, and this was a key moment. It had been a while since I'd seen this episode, like a couple years or so, but that's intense for her. And I mean, I have a whole moment to talk on it in a little bit, and I guess we can talk about it then. So I'll keep rolling. They go back in his office and Buffy pleads with Giles about how she's messed up and how the murder was. Him cutting her off to save Faith. He knows as her talents might be great, but lying is definitely not one of them. He voices that he just wanted her to think that he was on her side, as he's not sure how far she will take this charade. Buffy tells him about how it happened so fast, and they thought it was a vampire, and him alleviating the fact that accidents have indeed happened before with slayers in the past. Noting also the council gets involved to investigate, usually, when something like this occurs, and they do allow punishments, if need be, but he doesn't plan to involve them because that's the last thing that Faith needs, because she's clearly unstable. I was like, damn, Giles calling this shit. But obviously, this is the best person. This is why we should have went to Giles to begin with. If y'all had both went to him, this would have been so much better overall, because this would have made Faith look so good. It would have been them two coming to Giles, and then they could have worked it out and figured out what they needed to do. However, whatever way, Giles might have even been like, well, we can inform the council that this is taking place, and maybe this can be handled differently, because it's like both of them are on the chopping block. We can't have both slayers go to jail or whatever, you know? So maybe they would have cleaned it up better. Buffy notes she wants to help Faith, and if it can't come from her, maybe one of the gang could talk to her. Giles saying they can all meet. In the meantime, no one else is to know. Unfortunately, though, we pan outside to see Wesley has been eavesdropping, standing there, arms crossed, hearing everything. And just to look on this motherfucker face, I wanted to like pop him in the throat real quick and just to get him to like, you know, dishevel a little bit, because he's like looking stern and like kind of like side eye, and like I'm just like, oh, Wesley, come on now. I'm like, you're better than this, like my niece would say. This isn't really you. He takes action fast, because in the next little clip of a scene, we see him calling the council, code word monkey, to speak with Quentin Travers. They like trying to make him say monkey on the damn phone. Like he's like starting to spell it and shit. Like I was saying, I'm sure you'll agree that like Faith basically straight up betrays Buffy right here. And even after this, to speak ahead, and if I have this in my notes, my bad, but like, even moving forward, Buffy still stands up for Faith and wants to help her, even though this bitch just threw her directly under the bus. Like, telling Giles that Buffy was the one who killed Finch, that's the hugest gut punch to your friendship, first off. Buffy herself is the one who's trying to hold Faith together and like trying to guide her, trying to help her face what she's done. And then Faith just lies right here. Like, I feel like it's very frustrating. And we see Buffy giving her chances over and over again, and Faith refuses to take them. And we talked about that in opening thoughts. Like, it just really calls back to this specific moment. It's crazy, because even after she betrays her, Buffy's still advocating for her. And then it gets worse with the Xander moment. Like, when Faith chokes him and stuff, it's not just physical aggression, it's emotional outburst at that point. And you can tell she's acting out towards Buffy kind of indirectly, because I don't feel like it's a direct thing for her. But like we said, she's got this taste now. And Buffy represents everything that Faith should trust and everything that could help her. And instead of doing what she should do, Faith just lashes out. And I feel like she's scared to let anyone in, so she punishes them for being there for her. That's why she lashes out on Xander, who comes to try to help her. And obviously he's an easier target than Buffy, you know? And I know I don't really have too much talking about that in that scene, so that I'm choosing to talk about it kind of here. But it's like all coming from the same kind of fear and self-loathing that's bubbling under the surface inside of Faith whenever it comes to this moment. That's why she chooses to, like, right here as a pin particle of moment before the other stuff starts to follow. Like, this is just that first little thing of like saying that Faith is not doing what she should be doing, even though we already knew that just like on her own accord. Now she's wanting to drag Buffy and like lie on her to save herself, and that's just not the way to do it, regardless, especially when Buffy did not do that.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah. That would be like if I blamed you for something I did, you know. It just, it doesn't make, whether you're there or not. And I get that part, you know, where she earlier in the episode did say we were in this together, and I can see her take on it. But no, you weren't, because Buffy's literally the reason that she tried to put a gap in between you and the situation by yelling out your name and telling you no, you know. And of course, unfortunately for everyone, that was too little too late. But at that point, like, it's no different than if anyone does something by accident. The lack of accountability just makes it look less like an accident. Because now we're not just questioning whether it was an accident, we're questioning your motive behind it, because you've spent so much time avoiding the consequences and avoiding any kind of result to your own actions. So it's just bizarre, like you're saying, to see her even go as far as to cast off the blame to Buffy, who she knows did nothing wrong. And then to think that she's brilliant enough to manipulate Giles, who already has such a sincere attachment, not just to Buffy, but in general. Giles is the smartest person on the show.
Yeah.
Legitimately. Like, Buffy's smart and she's resourceful, but Giles probably has an above average IQ. Like, this man is smart, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, he can't be manipulated, especially when it comes to Buffy. So you're already barking up the wrong tree
Faith
here.
didn't
to
know
think
that.
you
She's not
can
thinking
get away
straight.
with that. Well, and on top of it, we have collectively, as viewers, as the group, as Giles, have all had enough experience, way longer compounded time with Buffy and her character, that we know that she really has a moral compass. We know she has a guilty conscience. We know she tries to put her best foot forward. We know that she's always trying to be the good person in the situation, even if it hurts herself.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, she had to fucking kill her own boyfriend to save the world. If that was Faith, everyone would be dead.
Oh my god, I know that that's immediately going in the Instagram post for this as part of those like sound clips overlaying something. I'm dead, but you're not wrong. You're
But
not
that's
wrong.
what it's giving,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? So it's like, you're talking about, we have an example of someone like that, to you coming into Giles's office and blaming Buffy, not just blaming Buffy for what happened, but also trying to basically insinuate that she's gone above and below and high and low in all the other ways to get rid of the evidence, to avoid the trouble, to get
Yeah.
out of any kind of like anything. So it's just really crazy that she would even be so unhinged as to think that walking into Giles's office to have this conversation and blaming Buffy is an excellent fucking idea and is definitely going to work. I'm like, this just shows how dumb you are.
They should have just, after like what Buffy wanted to do in general, like they should have just that night told Giles and been like, so this happened like just now. I know we have Balthazar to worry about, but we also have this other issue. Like, but that didn't happen that way.
Yes.
It's crazy to think about.
Or in that if Buffy should have followed her instinct and gone then to Giles herself. Like, fuck you, Faith, if you don't want to do the right thing.
I mean, but
whatever.
it sucks because like it's putting that instance between us, like where we're showing like once again the relation between these two girls and the fact that they're both guilty of something. They were both there, so it really does come down to both of them. Like, if it gets brought up in the bigger grand scheme of things, what were you guys out there doing? They can't just outrightly, for the most part, say, oh, we were out there battling vampires and doing this. Why did y'all have wooden stakes in your hands? Why were y'all out there? How did this occur on a real mundane level, you know? So it kind of puts that in retrospect for like for introspection there. But at the same time, Buffy is so easily convinced by Faith saying we're not going to tell anybody because of the guilt that's within her. Even though she wants to say something and she said it multiple times, she's so quick to just listen to Faith and be like, I'm not going to do it. She's still being persuaded like she was last episode to kind of be in that
hope.
Bad girl category of Faith without being truly bad, and to like keep it hush hush and just let it play out the way it needs to, whatever, you know what I mean? So I see that side of it when it comes to that, but
I feel like she's given us enough examples to where she feels so far removed from reality and like the consequences of reality. I think she forgets, because she's a slayer, that she's still a human and you're still living in real life. So when you take real life action, there is usually some sort of accountability that you have to take later. And she feels like, because she said it herself, that she feels like they're entitled to more freedom and they're entitled to more wiggle room when it comes to things that normal people would have immediate repercussions for,
like Faith said too, and that does make sense, and we get that because
right then I would have already been like, she's far gone, because forever she's made herself so entitled in her mind that where no matter what she does, she'll have a justification behind it, because she's a slayer, and for her it's she saved 1 million lives, and so what if she takes a few?
Which, I mean, like, casualties happen. So, I mean, I understand it in the instance. That makes sense. But you also get this thing where Buffy's life is so much different than Faith. Faith is acting this way because she has nothing. Buffy has everything. Buffy's got school to worry about, like getting kicked out again, essentially, not being able to graduate, having her whole life before, like we were talking about last episode, with everybody getting their college admission forms, that type of stuff. And Buffy has like a home life that's positive. Like, you know, the positive vibes are 100% there, but she has like a life to live, whereas Faith is just a slayer. This is Faith's life. She doesn't have that whole human side of her like Buffy has. So that's where we get this moral dilemma between the two, because of Buffy's, like, everything that's on the line for Buffy versus there's nothing on the line for Faith except her, everything that she can selfishly put into, like, just her. It's not the instance of how this pushed out on everybody, because if Buffy goes to jail, something happens bad to Buffy, not only do we not have Slayers in the fucking world anymore, like, hopefully the council will come through on that and get them out or something weird, but like, then you're in an instance where like Buffy is not with her friends anymore. She's not attending school. She's not at home with her mother where she should be. And it's all because of basically where she was following up under Faith at the end of the day, you know? And Faith's not a good influence. Totally. So there's that.
Yeah.
Over in the cafeteria the next day, though, we see Willow, Xander, Giles, and Buffy sitting pondering ideas on how to talk to Faith. Willow suggesting an intervention, and Buffy noting that last time they did that on her, she and Xander nearly came to blows, aka Xander nearly came to loss of limbs. Told you I wish Buffy had tore off his arm when she grabbed him in that episode, because she's like, you would do anything to hurt him, wouldn't you? And I was like, damn, she about damn near ripped his arm off. And I was like, I wish she would have. And I'm like, I still kind of wish she would have, but also we're past that. Giles doesn't think that that's the best, confrontation vibe that they should do, because Faith clearly acts very defensively and may respond better to a one-on-one approach. Xander voicing that he could be that one, alluding to his and Faith's interaction the other night during the Zeppo, so that his friends now know that they have a connection since they hung out. Something Willow clocks immediately, just saying, because we see her head bow down and look away from everybody, and Buffy presses exactly what that means, but quickly figures it out with a shocked "oh." Giles following and the two looking over to Willow.
I don't need to say, I got it before. They slept together.
Buffy also claims this is possibly still a long shot, letting Xander know that she knows firsthand that we all know what she knows about Faye thinking that men are playthings and how she just handles them as a joke, takes them as a joke. And then immediately is like, no offense. It's like towards Xander. And Xander's like, why? Xander's like, why would I take offense? And he's like fucking nervously looking. He's like, damn, shit. Like, we know you're a fuckboy. Calm down. Giles notes that he can be of assistance, though, like be like, hey, we can research more about the mayor and Mr. Trick being cozy together the other night. Not the same kind of cozy Faith and Xander were together, though. Just saying. Asking Willow, though, to look into the mayor's files, Giles like looks over at her and she's just blankly staring off and catching herself. She's like, what? And she's like, oh, wait, yeah, I can do that. I'll try. And they break as Giles ponders he's up to something, and Buffy comments that they need to help Faith and how she owes her that. Then we cut over to the bathroom where we find Willow crying in the stall over having found out this information about Faith and Xander. Just curious, what is your take on this scene with Willow after finding out this information in this whole moment?
Willow frustrates me because I feel bad for her, and that was my first instinct. Of course, you sympathize for Willow, and you're just like, this sucks for Willow, and it makes you dislike Xander a little bit in the moment. However, Xander doesn't owe Willow anything. He's a single person. He's a teenager. He really doesn't, he literally owes no one anything. So I think that not only have they both gone in different romantic directions, where Willow's been with Oz and Xander's been with Cordelia, I know it doesn't take away any kind of residual feelings that Willow's had for Xander in the past, but she's had such a shining example in Oz as to what a person, a boyfriend especially, should be, and how they should be respecting you and taking your feelings into consideration and all of these different things, that it shocks me that we're still seeing this. So it's like, I want to feel bad for her, and I do, like, the girl in me absolutely gets it. But at the same time, I'm just like, realistically, Willow, I wouldn't be thinking about anyone but Oz.
Yeah, you just feel like it's wasted energy to have this moment.
I feel like it's wasted energy.
Sure.
And I feel like she, at the end of the day, she shouldn't anticipate anything other than this out of Xander.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong for behaving the way he does, because like I said, he doesn't owe anyone anything. So just because if we all took into consideration everyone who comes around and decides to have feelings for us along the way, we would be really fucked.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like we can't like expect him to form his whole life and every choice he makes, especially an impulsive one, around how Willow might react, especially when they've never dated. We've done the song and dance. I know he's done his shit. Everyone has.
Yeah.
So it's like, as much as I want to go on a Xander slander tangent, I'm not going to, because he doesn't really owe anyone anything. And yeah, Willow, I feel like, poor thing, she's wasting her energy.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
just move on.
Yeah. Most people, I think, have that initial reaction to it. And I've heard a handful of people be confused by this moment and frustrated with it as well. Be like, why is she crying over Xander? Why are you still crying over Xander? Actually, is what I should say, because the still is very important. And I feel like my take on it, and really obviously sitting down with it this time around, I've never really ever felt like, because I know how her connection came back to Oz. I know like they're done. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like it's about her being in love with him. I feel like it's a little bit deeper, more of like a quiet realization for her that something between them has shifted. Not just like between her and Xander, also like just between them, they've had a specific bond, like their whole shared history. They grew up together, they get each other. And then like suddenly he's crossed into this part, coming into the metaphor of the show, into adulthood that doesn't include her. So she kind of gets her feelings hurt in that way. And I think it also stirs up some of those old insecurities for her. Like Faith is everything that Willow isn't. She's already having a problem with Faith. So finding out Faith was the person that Xander lost his virginity with. Like Faith is bold and confident and sexual, and Willow's still trying to figure out herself. And she's not any of those things. You know, we just clowned on Willow for wearing the outfit that she was wearing in Amends when Oz came to, like, when she was trying to hook up with him, you know, like we already get the idea from the past 2 episodes that she's not a fan of Faith also. Like,
no, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I do think it's layered, like you're saying. It's a layered meaning, and it is maybe not just so much about like Xander sleeping with Faith, which I didn't really think about. It's all the things attached to Faith. You know, Buffy was kind of ditching Willow for a while. She kind of got rejected. Not rejected, I don't want to use that term, because I don't feel like Oz intentionally rejected her, but I feel like he didn't want to do what she was inviting to happen under those circumstances. So she probably feels a little bit rejected, and then to find out that, because she says it later about like Faith coming in and like taking all her people or something, or being with all her people, whatever she says. So I get that the reason for her crying in the stall is probably a little bit more layered and less attached to Xander than I thought. But yeah, upon initial reaction, when you think she's just in there crying over Xander, I was like, girl.
Exactly. And like the very first time I ever watched it, I was like, bitch, why are you crying in here? Like, or like, I mean, obviously I'm much younger, so I'm not really thinking about it in that same phrase, but like,
of course,
you know, I don't feel like now really looking to it, it's about jealousy. I feel like in a more straightforward way, it's just her processing that moment and something that she's always known and someone she's always known and counted on in certain ways. And like I said, he's moving in a direction that she's not really a part of anymore, which is okay. But it's like, for her, a raw human moment that for her too, to not go make a scene out of this, like that she might have in the past or something like that. She takes a moment to go fall apart privately and doesn't understand how she feels about this, why she even possibly feels this way, but decides to go in here behind closed doors, deal with the moment and process, no matter how that pours out of her, whether that be tears or anger, or like breaking mirrors in here or whatever the case. She chooses to do that solo and then basically deal with it and move on like we see her the rest of the episode. It doesn't become a whole thing, you know?
No.
So that's my kind of take on it. And I'm like, it emerges and stuff like that. But, you know, I've heard, like I said, stuff all over the run of the show and stuff and commentary from people on it that more fall on the side of like, I like want her to be over this whole Xander thing, and I was like, I don't really think it's about her being over Xander or not. Like I'll spoil it if it's not, because it's not a spoiler. She never ever has this instance with Xander again where they had the energy that they had at the beginning of the season. But we're also coming off of that
like
stuff.
Super multifaceted,
100%, and
her,
we were coming off of that from this being a theme for the beginning of the season, and what led to her basically coming to a part in her mind where she says like, oh, this is actually something that's not positive for my life. Like I need to turn away from this because Xander's, I want Oz and all this other stuff, like however, whatever way it needs to be said and done. And that way she's moved on from that. So I don't think it's really like a fallback like it was last season or into this season or anything like that. So I think that's where people get caught up on. We also see Xander alone in the library during this little montage before making his way over to Faith against suggestion of Buffy, I will point out, which he shouldn't, because this all turns into him trying to be nice with Faith and saying that he wants to help her because he's heard the version of Buffy did it. He's like, I heard that version. And she's like, version? And I'm like, ooh, but they all know better. And he basically voices that, which unfortunately put Xander back in this category of going over Buffy and Giles' head and places he shouldn't, and directly goes and tells Faith essentially that they all know it was her. You know what I mean? Which makes her feel backed into a corner.
Indirectly, but directly.
Yes. He doesn't get that he's doing that. He doesn't really understand that he's fuel right now to a fire. And that's the upsetting part about Xander is Xander's a stupid teenage boy, and he doesn't fucking get the emotional degree of what's going on here. Not that they don't have the capacity to do that. I'm just saying that is totally what's before us, because once again, in a way, kind of fucks with the situation. It's just like him guiding off Faith to go after Angel. You know what I mean? He makes the situation not necessarily... Faith would have just been there chilling by herself and not choking him out. Now he's like, I could take the stand for you and testify, blah, blah, blah. 200% calling him out as well, Faith does, when she's like, oh, you just want acknowledgement about how I made you my boy toy for a night. Also noting how he came back there basically looking for more, which she gives to him. And then the more turns into basically a full-on rape scene, because remember, Faith's motto is want, take, have, except this one comes with some BDSM, I guess, on the menu, because it turns dark as hell really quick as she basically pushes him onto the bed, fondles him, and he's like, no, not like this, not agreeing to doing this. If she had not done this aggressively, he would have tried to sleep with her in a heartbeat again. I mean, I would have, whatever. But all of this feels in him basically saying no, and then she attempts to choke Xander out in a very unfortunate scene that could have been avoided if he had not come his ass over here, and basically choking the life nearly out of his body. We hear the door open, and she turns around to meet a bat to the face delivered by Angel, who thankfully has still been keeping that watchful eye on her. Faith's want, take, have mentality takes on a new form here, and she quotes, I could make you scream, I could make you die, which is very important for the next scene with Angel, as he's commenting she's got this taste for murder now. This is new territory that liberates her and makes her feel more powerful, which we will get to in a bit, and we've already kind of started to talk about, but it just makes so much sense for Angel getting paired with her in a little bit, for Angel to be here to like save Xander also, just to call back to that, like we said earlier, like, Xander, you better love this motherfucker for the rest of your fucking life.
For real. This was very difficult to watch in a way, and I think it added to the fact that this episode's already uncomfortable for so many reasons, you know, in large part centered around Faith. But this really takes the cake of just cringe, because she takes her whole MO to a whole new level, and suddenly we're going from this person who kind of like blurs the lines on some boundaries, or blurs the lines on some rules and regulations. Now we're totally overstepping basically every single thing ever that a moral compass should have, human emotion should have. I mean, and now you're literally about to murder someone who is your friend.
In a way, yeah. You also just slept with this guy like a couple episodes ago. Like,
yeah, you just slept with him. He's kind enough
friend
to come check on you. You know, whether Xander's overstepping Giles or not, or Buffy and Giles, I should say, whether he's doing that or not, doesn't change the fact that his motive there is because he cares. You know, he does care about Faith.
Right.
He doesn't want to get her in trouble. He doesn't want to see her in jail, you know. And if he does have to testify, like he says, if this goes in a real legal way, he's willing to be on her side always. So that shows you that element of true care. He is concerned in a way, you know.
Sure.
Does it protect everyone? For sure. Of course, it helps everyone.
Yes.
Does it give him the ability to say the things and be braggadocious potentially? Yeah, of course.
100% just that, though. Like, and I have to like pause you in that thought, because that's the part like really bothers me, is like him being like, I can testify. Testify to what? What are you going to get up there and say? And that's why Faith directly calls him out, saying, you just want to get up there and tell all your friends about how I made you your boy toy. Even though that's not specifically in his mind, he's like, wait, hold on, this is taking a turn. I didn't actually think that, but like, that's what it's giving. You know what I mean? Like, what would you do up there on the stand? You would not be able to do anything.
No, I know. I think that to me, I took it almost like he obviously has spent time with her. She's in the friend group, you know, but I don't consider his testimony any more valuable than Willow's or someone else, Giles, you know. So, but I do consider him there not with the motive to come sleep or take advantage.
No, not at all.
Of Faith. So I feel like he's there for an element of care.
Yeah.
And for basically the tables to turn so severely that he's finding himself on the verge of death at her hands. That's crazy.
Yeah. Just shows how twisted she's become.
She's totally diabolical.
This bitch is wild. Well, in that, we cut over to Angel's mansion, where we see Faith is chained up the same way that he was in Beauty and the Beast. He's like, I had these chains still. I'm going to put you in the exact same spot I was chilling at. And Faith's already snarking to Angel about how she knew that he wasn't a one slayer kind of guy since she's tied up here. He claims he doesn't trust her, and she tries to play off how her and Xander were just wrestling. She didn't say that, but it's a callback to a couple episodes ago. I was like, wrestle, not the E, the A. him noting that she forgot the safety word, and she's like, safe words are for wusses. He kneels down to face level with her to talk to her, only she doesn't seem to be open, and he walks out to the courtyard to speak with Buffy on how he's getting nowhere with her, and he will keep trying. They are just getting started. Buffy wants to do more, though. She's like, well, maybe I can go to Faith's house and get some of her things, put some stuff together for her, so she sees that we're like on her side. So nice for her to say, but he also notes that he doesn't want Buffy to give her hopes up because she might not want to be helped. And Buffy claims that she does, just doesn't know how to say it. And I'm like, okay, yes, this is absolutely accurate. That's exactly what's going on here. But also there's some things that you're not recognizing either, Buffy, because we know what happened now at this point. And once again, Buffy, you're a fucking beautiful person, because this bitch just tried to choke out one of your best friends. And now we're falling into this category where you're saying, I'm still want to help her. I'm going to go get some of her things so she feels comfortable. Just thinking she's like lashing out. She doesn't understand how dark she's going, which is the fun flip side that Angel's the one sitting here with her, because obviously Buffy has a lot of trust in Angel to be the person to speak with Faith on this and deal with it. But she also understands that like Angel is probably quite literally the perfect person, because he's been through stuff like that as well. And he's probably said this to Buffy in a scene that we didn't get to see. Then he also tells her that everything is different for Faith now because she's taken a life and how she has that taste for it. Over at City Hall, the mayor and Mr. Trick watch footage of the Slayers inside their offices, seeing the two together now, and they are thick as thieves, and how they don't want the evidence to be put on them, and how they also don't have any evidence to put them away in jail, and how Mr. Trick better think of a way to efficiently deal with this issue ASAP. Because I love how the mayor, he's like, this ain't my job to clean up this mess. He's like, you need to figure out what's going on here. So whatever that is, you do it. But also kind of fucked up. Like, I wonder if they just happened to look at the footage because they had a feeling, or like somebody brought it to their attention that people were in the building that weren't supposed to be. Like, good monitoring.
I know,
it's a little
right?
bit late, but Back at the mansion, though, Angel continues to talk with Faith about how he understands what's going on with her firsthand, understanding how it is to take a life and feel the power of it, how exhilarating it can be. And Faith still closed off, commenting how he may need professional help with those issues. I like that because Faith's like projecting on him. She's like, well, maybe you should talk to a therapist about that. Noting it all stopped when he got his soul back, though, she's more interested in getting out of these chains, because he comments specifically that Faith has a choice here.
Hey, you've tasted something few ever do. I mean, to kill without remorse is to feel like a god.
Right now, all I feel is a cramp in my wrist. Let me go!
But you're not a god. You're not much more than a child. Going down this path will ruin you. You can't imagine the price for true evil.
Faith smiles at him to say that she hopes that evil takes MasterCard. It's kind of fucked up because Faith is just retaliating at this point. The fact that she looks at him and says that is a little bit scary. He backs away from her, smiling, commenting on how he and her are a lot alike, and how once he thought humans existed to just hurt one another. And this is the part that I like. He moves from standing as Faith's opposing side and instead takes a seat beside her on the wall and positions himself to look like the position that she is in. And right here we see that makes an impression on her, because he tells her that when he came here, he found people who wanted to do right, and how even if mistakes were made, he found that he could also trust those people because they care. And voices to Faith that if she can trust them, that this can all change and she won't have to disappear into that darkness. This is my favorite scene of the whole episode. I really honestly used to love the fight sequence at the very end that goes down more than anything, but it like just shows like how your mind changes. Like, I love this whole situation with them, because Angel getting paired with Faith, as we've been talking about, like, you see why Buffy trusts him. He's been through the exact same thing. He carries that same kind of guilt. We just had this all going on in amends. He has started to make amends and understand where he can come back from doing terrible things, especially when it's not somebody that he was. And Faith's in a different position, because this is all Faith. Like, she has a soul. This wasn't like some flip side energy that he has where a soul's not even in the picture. And he's not just lecturing her to control her. He actually understands what she's feeling. And watching him with her, sitting beside her, that patience and calmness that he has, is like he's holding space for her without judgment. And it's like more of a discernment stance. And it's exactly what she needs at this point, because just by the look at her face when she looks over to him after he makes the comment about disappearing into that darkness and like trusting people and stuff, you almost get the sense that Faith is about to come around. And then obviously, you know, we get the next part of the scene that interrupts it and stuff when Wesley steps in. But that is what ruins this moment and ruins Faith because of like the procedure and rules that the council follows. It doesn't really involve humanity at that point. And Angel is all about humanity because he lives this special existence as like a human vampire twisted mindset. So he's always at war with himself. So he understands this is going to be a probably constant war for Faith. And you see that potential for her to open up here and start to possibly gonna like be like, oh, I might make a different choice here. And I don't know. I can't say too much more because there's some stuff like that, like will tie in later that like I'm going to call that to this specific moment. That's why I'm spending a moment with it in general. But it's very interesting to see the presence that Angel has in Faith's life right here and how he's not there to fix her. And he's acting more of like a guide for her and giving her the chance to reckon with herself more than anything. And unfortunately, as I was saying about that potential, it's ruined because the doors barge open and Wesley and a crew of council members walk in with crosses and stakes, tossing a net onto Angel and beating him as Wesley unlocks Faith's shackles and she gets real excited that she's being set free. Wesley replaces those handcuffs that he took off with new handcuffs on her wrist, and she gets confused. I love that too because she's like, what? Wait, hold up. Him ordering by the council that she is to stand trial for her crimes by the disciplinary committee in England. And I wrote my notes. I was like, because we laughed about it and everybody makes jokes about this. We're like, Angel hate to see that net coming. I was like, where was that net in season 2 when everything was going down in season 2? Like, they could have ended the whole Angelus arc if they just threw a net on his ass.
Apparently.
I love it.
Apparently it disables him immediately.
We see Faith now chained in the back of a transport truck, Wesley speaking on the extreme situation and noting that the council wants to help her and not rush to judgment. Wesley's kind of saying the right things here, but he notices Faith attempting to loosen her restraints. And I'm like, damn, she about to pull this bolt out the fucking thing and beat their asses. Which he orders the guy to go tighten that's sitting back there with them. And when he tries to do so, Faith trips him to the ground with a foot lodged into his skull, offering that she can pop this guy's head like a grape if Wesley doesn't unlock her. Now that's a sour grape. He is dumb and moves over to do so, though, telling her that she can't keep running as she punches him out. Him trying to defend himself as she calls him wrong and headbutts him unconscious and kicking the doors open to the truck and hopping out into the street. I'm glad she's a slayer because that rough and tumble from a moving vehicle, I know that hurt her back. Like, if you was a real person, you would have scoliosis the rest of your life moving forward. But so like these little bits of elements here, even though Wesley's trying to go by the books, I do like how when he goes to unlock her, he's really looking at her and saying like, Faith, this isn't the move. But also you just came in this whole fucking situation that just basically put her on edge and is threatening her existence. Like now she's like, regardless, getting what she feared, going to jail and like having to face the Watchers Council and all this other stuff. She's still thrown into this territory of like, I don't know what the fuck's about to happen to me. And I don't want any of this to be happening to me, which is fair. But also it's just not done right. Everybody gets so frustrated with this, especially like the show, which you'll see in the future because of this one scene, because of what Wesley chose to do here, barging in, like not talking to Giles, even though Giles is not his superior or anything like that. He's acting as Watcher. He's doing his job. You know what I mean? This is by the books what he should be doing.
Of course.
But
it's just not ideal to the situation. And I think he doesn't know that he's creating more it's like adding insult to injury, you know, so.
But he kind of comes back with his tail tucked in between his legs in a little bit, and then Buffy gets to kind of say some of that stuff to him. But right now, Buffy arrives back at Angel's, finding him struggling in the net still, cutting us over immediately to him, her, and the gang talking about what occurred at the library. Giles confirming Faith will be on her way to England then now to face the council and will most likely be locked away for a long time. Buffy saying that they need to stop them, which again, she's now talking about stopping the Watchers Council from performing their actual task so that way she can keep Faith. Like, that's our girlfriend. I'm just saying. Willow, and I mean, if we ever needed to call it out, it's right here. Willow then asks, like, why exactly is that they need to stop them, understanding that she's not the hugest fan of Faith, noting what she did to Xander and murdered someone and accused Buffy and all of that, hating to voice maybe that Faith belongs behind bars. Buffy saying she understands that she's out of control, but how Angel was getting somewhere with her, and how if they could stop Wesley, as you know, Wesley walks in the door, like I said, tail tucks between his legs, saying that that's not an issue. Buffy clocking immediately that he let her get away, although he wouldn't phrase it as let's. Angel snarking he did great work to terrorize her and then put her back on the streets. I forgot Angel called that out before Buffy yells at him to say, yeah, you probably destroyed her. And then that's the moment too where Giles is like, Buffy, like, no. He actually kind of told her to calm down. But they're saying accurate stuff like what we're saying. That's what's frustrating about the whole moment. This girl is already at like a breaking point, and you probably just added more fuel, again, just like Xander did, onto that fire of where we could like pull her back in maybe in a week. Or maybe after sitting and having this talk with her and having her actually reckon with what she's done, maybe then we can start to order out what the actual process of this would be. But right now is not that time. Buffy getting up and then saying that she needs to go find her before she does more damage, giving everyone a place to look for Faith also, and that herself will take the dogs, since, you know, she made that comment earlier about how you got to get the fuck out of here. You take the dogs, you take the freighter. Everyone leaving as Wesley voices wanting to help, and Buffy snarking that he can help by using that plane ticket to go back to the mother country. She's like, you can also get the fuck out of here. She's like, did you want to come to the docks with me and get on the boat and head out to England? She's like, I'm sure there's a boat on there somewhere.
I know, right?
I'm over at the docks. Buffy looks for Faith, and Faith calls out to her from the boat that she's chilling on and yelling out to her like she doesn't just give up. And Buffy turning around to tell her, no, on my friends, I do not. Faith sarcasming, yeah, because we're such solid buds. Buffy confirming they could be. It's not too late. Once again, chance after chance after chance. And it doesn't stop here. Faith thinking that means to become more like Buffy, Miss Goody Two-Shoes, and how that ain't going to happen, B. Buffy says no one's asking for you to be like me or that, but you cannot go on like this. Accurate. Faith notes it scares Buffy, and she confirms that it does, because Faith's hurting people and herself, and Faith offering up more about what bugs Buffy.
But that's not it. That's not what bothers you so much. What bugs you is you know I'm right. You know in your gut. We don't need the law. We are the law. No. Yes. You know exactly what I'm about, because you have it in you, too.
No, Faith, you're sick.
I've seen it, B. You've got the lust. And I'm not just talking about screwing vampires.
Don't you dare bring him into this.
It was good, wasn't it? The sex, the danger. At a party, we even dug him when he went psycho.
No.
See, you need me to toe the line because you're afraid you'll go over it, aren't you, B? You can't handle watching me live in my own way, having a blast because it tempts you. You know it could be you. There's my girl.
That whole instance when they're walking side by side with each other, and she's like, you don't like this because it could be you type stuff, basically calling back to what I was saying earlier about Buffy sees the similarity of how this could be her, how they share this energy of the Slayer, how she was there too. It's like this whole, it's not just such a dual side, it's like one part of the same person in a way. And she calls all that out, and Buffy fucking punches her, not liking what she's saying. And this riles Faith up too, because she's like, there's my girl. And like, you can see Faith's got this weird kind of sadistic twist in her head to like how people should be treated and how situations should go. Like, if you put like, my biggest motto in life is like, we want to keep things on an even playing ground when we're in a confrontation or a communication like battle, especially if there's tension. You don't want that scale to rise. You want it to, if anything, stay at the same. And then if it starts to drop, you bring it back up to that mid level so everything stays on the same platform.
If it starts to rise, I'm gonna just turn my back on you and walk away, and we can save this for tomorrow when we're
exactly. But not Faith. Faith is like, no, let's rile this up. Let's get this. Like, let's take.
No, but they do a good job with these little tidbits of moments where it's just in response to something, but it's such a weird off-kilter response that it's enough to really just be like, all right, this bitch is like, whatever. If there's a term for beyond unhinged, that's where we're at. We're beyond the level of unhingedness. Yeah. It's way past that.
Well, Buffy is exactly feeling that vibe because she tries to storm away from Faith, noting that she doesn't want to do this with Faith. She's not going to do this with Faith. Faith chasing alongside her as they fast-paced walk, saying, why not? It feels good. Once again, trying to like entice her into this. She's like, why don't you be a bad Slayer with me too? You know what I mean? It's a whole thing. And then we see a set of cargo crates hanging above them snap and starting to fall on the two. And what does Buffy do? She pushes Faith out the way and takes that fucking hit.
To have a friend like Buffy.
I'm glad you said it because I was going to say it. Like, seriously. Like, crazy. But also, I'm not even going to get into it right now. The reason that fucking box fell is because a group of vampires with Mr. Trick attack. I'm like, damn. Once again, what I was saying about Faith hopping out the thing, you know Buffy's back's broken. Like, again, like, what is happening?
There goes that scoliosis.
Like, there's that scoliosis diagnosis again. Like, she is going to be seeing the chiropractor 3 times a week for the rest of her fucking life if she was not a Slayer. But that's going to hurt anybody. And obviously we can see this physically hinders Buffy because she just took fucking 4 full cargo crates crashing down on this bitch.
Hell yeah.
Faith starts to take on the vampires as Buffy works her way from under the crates, once finally out getting blindsided by Mr. Trick's fists. Weak from the crates, getting wailed on by him, Faith discards one of the vamps into the water and then gives a double 2k per slay, aka a 4k per slay, of the other two vampires back to back with a wooden shard from the ground. Looking over to see Buffy being choked out by a Trick and dragged all over the ground, he wrapped like a matching strap around her, like the thing that you use to keep things tight when you're like loading transport and stuff like that. He like used that and he's dragging Buffy fucking all around.
He basically used it like a leash.
Yeah, I used to think when I was a kid it was his tie that he took off and wrapped around her, but then I noticed this time it's cargo crate like ropes. I love the action sequence. I love Faith, that one vampire. She all puts the barrel thing on his head and then stakes the other vampire, and when the other vampire is trying to take the barrel off, he like finally gets it off and he meets the stake. I'm like, shit. Also, we're getting this tear in between Faith being like dark and also going on this spiral, but also she's like fighting vampires still. She could have just left Buffy there to fight all of them and ran off and went back on the boat, you know what I mean, or fled the scene or did something like that. But once again, like you said at the beginning, she kind of stuck around and helped. Mr. Trick, though, over with Buffy, has got her jacked up against the wall, and he moves in to bite her, voicing that he's heard once you've tasted a slayer, you never go back. His fangs almost pierce her throat as we see him grow stunned, having heard something pierce him from behind.
Oh, no. No, this is no good at all.
So funny.
Faith appearing in the dust cloud when he fades away, just like she did saving Buffy at the beginning of Bad Girls. I also want to say that I love this dust effect because you see one of his eyeballs drop as he's dusting. I just really think it's cool that they gave him a different treatment because it was like a face-on dust. We usually don't see vampires die in this way. The care that they've taken versus the way we saw vampires dust in the first episode is just tremendously better and different. And then Buffy stares at Faith and looks on confused. And like Buffy and Faith in this moment too, the way Buffy stares at her, kind of confused that Faith helped her and after everything that we just dealt with, but you kind of see Faith look at Buffy some type of way before she fixes her jacket and kind of like re-stiffens herself, once again kind of showing Faith right there on the fucking line between what side she wants to be on, you know. I just love that you pointed out in your thoughts on the episode that you really liked this moment, that Faith still came through for Buffy in the end.
Well, when you see her just be so emotionally detached the entire episode, it's almost the last thing that you're expecting. Not that you expect her to let Buffy die either, but in some sense it does go through your head for a second because she already tried to murder Xander. And then on top of it, I'm kind of like, well, wouldn't she like to be the only Slayer? And don't a lot of her problems go away if Buffy's not there to tell the truth about everything?
Ooh.
You know, so it's like there's so many things that went through my head that I was like, holy shit, she could really let this happen right now.
Yeah.
But then to see her not let it happen does show that she's in touch with at least a little something. It's just not enough to sway her in the right direction, at least not from our side of looking at it. And like I said, I'm here for the element of where things go because I like what it's going to do to the show, but I don't like that it's with the risk of Faith. Like they have to sacrifice her as the character to create this really dark undertone. That's exciting, but it's also like this is that moment where I was like, I really hope that she just goes and runs right after this to Giles and says, I surrender, or, you know, whatever. And you toy with that, but I don't know. I was surprised in a way she let Buffy live. Obviously she has to, otherwise that would be the end of the show. But some weird shit went through my head for a second where I was like, she could benefit a lot if she just kind of let this happen.
Yeah.
But then she plays it to her benefit anyway.
Exactly. There's that element where she's like, if Buffy's still around, then like everybody else still stands a chance when I'm so far gone that I'm not going to be coming back from this, which is what we're about to get into, you know?
Yeah.
We cut over to the library where Giles is pouring Buffy some tea. Buffy told him Faith saved her and how she could have let her die, but she didn't. Giles commenting on at least how it bodes well that Faith opted to come back to town with Buffy as well versus leaving. And Faith still has a lot to face also before she can put it behind her. Buffy firmly saying that she's not going to give up on her, and Giles voicing then he thinks she stands a chance. Buffy nodding, smiling at him, looking hopeful. I love how I wrote that in the beginning of this episode. We were all talking about how like it ends on a hopeful note, and then all of a sudden you're not hopeful anymore once you see what happens. Because over at City Hall, we see the mayor collecting his things to leave his office, opening his door to find Faith standing there, who comments on how he sent his boy to kill her, and he agrees, and she confirms that he's dust now. He figured, what with her standing here and all. Faith looks at him stepping into his office towards him, sinister music cueing in as Faith tilts her head to the side and suggests to the mayor, "So I guess that means you have a job opening." He steps back, allowing her entry into his office to talk as the door shuts on the two and us. We fade to black, and here endeth the episode. I love that fucking twist, and we've already talked about it, but like, holy shit. I can't wait for you to watch the next episode just to like see like what's starting to open up for this. It's going to be really exciting. Now I'm 10 times more amped for you to watch the rest of the season for sure, because of just this being finally presented, like knowing that this was coming the whole time too. It leaves you at a spot where you don't really know what's occurring the next episodes to come. We don't know if she's still back and forth on this fence of what's happening, if like next episode she's balls to the wall like against Buffy or what. And before I get into themes and metaphor, I just wanted to touch base back on the fact how Buffy's the fucking best. I love her so much about not giving up on Faith. And also saying that, I wanted to directly call it back to Revelations again, because we've been connecting this whole arc over these 2 episodes really to that episode. And I notice now more than ever how it sets up the themes that we're dealing with across these 2 episodes in that episode. But the moment in that episode where Buffy's like, "Faith, wait, we can figure this out," talking about Gwendolyn before they actually have their first initial fight in Revelations, I feel like it echoes all the way to here from there after something actually awful has happened. And now Faith is facing a tough road. Buffy's still trying to reach her and still trying to make Faith be on her side and see that she's on her side. And it being a callback and also a turning point, like Buffy has so much compassion for her and been identifying with her. I think she just wants to save that part of herself that she sees in Faith, because I've been saying that comment the whole time about like she sees herself in her, the part that could also be her if she had let go. You know what I mean? It could be any Slayer, any person could get themselves in this position, because Faith brought up some good elements earlier about like, how many battles have you fought? How many like casualties could potentially happen? How many people, because Buffy decided to stay home because she was grounded or she was over at Willow studying for school, how many times did she not be out on the streets and potentially a person got killed out there by a vampire? And that's still the same kind of energy of it being your fault because you weren't there to save that person, but that's a casualty. That's still going to happen because you cannot save them all. That's the big quotation there. You cannot save them all. But like, the fact that Buffy has so much heart here for Faith and isn't trying to preach to her on the docks or anything like that, and then Faith's trying to say to her, like, this could be you, it's like triggering for Buffy. And, you know, by the end of the episode, we see Faith's doubt really take hold more than anything. And she now begins to reject Buffy, to lose sight of what being a Slayer means and the good aspects anyway, along with like what her duty and friendships really are in her life. You know, like the path that leads her straight to the mayor, it does exactly what Angel fears it would do. It lets her give into that darkness. So anyways, thematically, Consequences is really about exactly what the title says, the fallout. It's about the weight of choices, guilt, denial, and how people handle responsibility when there's no easy fix. And this isn't just about what happened. It's about what it does to everyone involved, especially Buffy and Faith. Faith's response being total denial, terrified to face what she's done. She now goes into this self-protective mode, acting like it doesn't matter, like she's above it, but you can tell it's eating at her still. She's just burying it under bravado and deflection, trying to convince herself that feeling nothing makes her stronger. It's heartbreaking because we know she's not cold, she's just scared. Buffy, meanwhile, reacts to that the opposite way. She carries the guilt alongside Faith, even though she wasn't the one who killed the man. Buffy's instinct is to take responsibility, to fix it, and to do what's right. So while Faith's pulling away and trying to control the story, Buffy's trying to pull her closer, and that's where this emotional divide starts to really take shape. The two Slayers have always been mirrors of each other, but this episode makes that mirror crack. Buffy's guilt turns her inward, makes her more empathetic and careful, while Faith's shame hardens into rebellion. It's like we're watching powers split into two. One side guided by conscience and the other by denial. Then you've got the Watchers Council stepping in through Wesley, who just proves how disconnected they are from what being a Slayer actually means. He sees the situation as procedure and discipline, while Giles is fighting to handle it with compassion. It's a really sharp contrast, authority versus understanding, and shows how easy it is for someone like Faith to slip through the cracks when no one's meeting her where she actually is emotionally. I thought that was something really important to call out. And that's where the isolation then comes in, because Faith starts cutting herself off from everyone who cares about her, Giles, Buffy, the Scoobies, and that isolation is what leaves her open to being pulled into darkness. Faith's kind of drowning here, not literally, but in guilt, fear, and the feeling that she has nowhere left to belong, which is a direct callback to how we opened the episode with Buffy. Buffy reaching out, trying to keep her from going under, but Faith's already convinced herself that she's too far gone. That's what makes this episode very powerful. It's the moment where you can feel Faith shifting, that slow pull towards the darkness that's going to define the rest of her story. Dun dun dun. I'm leaving that there. It's crazy. I have 2 Buffy fun facts. Finch's death is the 3rd murder investigation in which Buffy has been involved in less than 2 years. She was previously suspected in the death of Robot Ted and fellow Slayer Kendra. Additionally, both of the previous cases were investigated by the same detective. So I forgot he was in that too, whenever he was doing the detective stuff about Kendra and whatnot as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that too.
And then, although credited, Seth Green does not appear in this episode at all. And this is the only time during season 3 that a main character is absent. Not super crazy, but I saw it on the fun facts page. So I was like,
I did notice that.
I did too. I was like, where the fuck's Oz? I'm like, I ain't got time for him.
There's too much going on.
Exactly. Let's get into our final slays.
Final slays.
Final slays, consequences. They're being dealt out. Quote for this episode, I chose Willow whenever she's like, oh, Buffy, don't cry. I'm sorry, I was too hard on you. Sometimes I just unleash. I don't know my own strength. It's bad. I'm bad. I'm a bad, bad, bad person. Just because the way Willow just delivers stuff, like her dialogue is always just so freaking funny. And then it's very sappy, but I really like when Angel tells Faith that she doesn't have to disappear into darkness, because like I said, that's my favorite scene in the whole episode. What are your quotes?
Yeah, that is a good one. Well, my first one trails off of your first one, which is when Willow is like, it's like all of a sudden I'm not cool enough for you because I can't kill things with my bare hands.
Oh, shit.
And really, it's also great just because we obviously understand the double meaning behind why Buffy's reaction to that was the way it is.
Well, your reaction on the camera whenever she said that, you wouldn't, like, you made a face or did something, you were like, because you knew, you were like, bitch, she said the wrong thing at the wrong time.
Accidentally cringe, sorry. And then my other one was just a LOL moment between Faith and Angel, when Faith was like, that thing with Xander is not what it looked like. We were just playing. And Angel was like, and he forgot the safety word. Is that it?
Safety words for wusses. I love how we both had 2 this episode. And kind of within the same scenes.
And kind of in the same theme. Yeah,
not even funny. Kind of, it was. Shining Slayer, who'd you give it to this episode?
I was kind of torn.
You gave it to Faith.
Yeah, definitely Faith. It was for sure Faith. I don't know. I really intuitively, instinctually, and as a reflex wanted to give it to Giles this time. And I think it's because he created for what I would consider the pivot in the episode, where we don't know what's happening. We just know Faith is unhinged. And we don't know where this is going other than, if according to Faith, not probably the right way. So when the moment happens and Buffy's in Giles's office to finally do the right thing, and we see Faith has beat her to it, Giles's move in not just allowing Faith to believe that he believed her, but also like scolding Buffy in front of Faith and really playing into that, so that way Faith at least has a moment to leave with enough reassurance that someone's on her side, and that someone being Giles, who's a fairly important person to have on your side. Yeah. So I wanted to give it to Giles for that, because I feel like if it wasn't for that, and if it wasn't for him thinking ahead enough, even in just that moment, things could have played out totally differently. You know, if he would have immediately been like, okay, Faith, you're full of fucking shit. I'm calling the council right now, and you're not leaving anywhere. Things could have escalated to a place we don't want to know, and then Giles would have been at the receiving end of that. And then we don't know, you know? Yeah. So it's like, for him to really have enough, I guess, wit and resourcefulness and all these things to act that out in the heat of the moment kind of almost saved the day in a way. Yeah. And it reassured Buffy also that it's never really going to matter when, how, or if it comes to the point of you having to turn your back on a friend in order to do the right thing. If you're doing the right thing, you're going to have support.
Yeah.
And I feel like in order to do any of what she does for the rest of the episode, she needed to know that she was supported, especially by Giles, because if she would have been alluded to believe that Giles believed Faith, and then in turn everyone else is going to turn their back on her thinking she just murdered someone and then is not trying to face any kind of accountability for it, it would have changed the trajectory of everything. So for me, that was a golden moment for Giles for saving the day.
I think that just while you're talking about it, I think it's very interesting that Faith didn't choose to go to Wesley, her actual watcher. She still went to Giles because that's what Buffy had been suggesting, even though she went and lied. Like, she still chose to go to Giles versus go talk to Wesley about this.
Which was so stupid, in my opinion. I feel like she could have easily convinced someone who hardly knows anyone in the situation, including her, than someone who does not just know her, but also Buffy so well. Like, the odds are against you.
And good thing he didn't, because if she didn't, because if he had have been told that, he would have immediately been on the phone calling the council talking about, we need to get Buffy out of here, and then Buffy would have been out of there. Like, they would have been coming for Buffy that way. Like, would have been more of a mess. But yeah, I feel like I put it all over the place, but like, I gave part of a Shining Slayer moment, which is kind of like a that Slade moment, but not a that Slade moment. I guess kind of overall gave it to Buffy for pushing Faith out from under the falling cargo crates. And after all that Faith's put Buffy through in this episode, her being a stand for her still. So like, that to me was just a shining, like, not even a Shining Slayer, a shining person. So maybe I'll put Buffy in that category. Because like, as Faith's trying to run off and like after betrayal, like hurting Xander, like fighting for her to stay and understand, like, that just gives me so much for Buffy. Obviously, if y'all guys don't know, I jack off to Buffy. She's fucking awesome. Like, and not literally, but metaphorically speaking. But like, just, I don't know, being on the right side of good. It's always like why I like her so much as a protagonist for a series. That's why she's my favorite person, why she's my heroine in life. Like, she always wants to fight to do the right thing. So I think I came down on the side of Buffy being Shining Slayer, and I do really like your version of Giles being there, because I like, other than Buffy herself, I feel like I would have to give a little sprinkle of it to Angel for just kind of coming through and being able to actually understand Faith in a way. But I didn't give him any credit, so I'm just going to acknowledge him in that statement.
He's in our acknowledgement.
But that being said, what gave you the Wiggins?
Faith basically going to kill Xander. I mean, Faith in general throughout the whole episode, I think it's safe to say. Yeah, but that moment specifically really just sent it over the edge of whatever kind of like crisis mentally she was already in. Like, that really showcased how far gone she is to me. And I was just like, I agree. You gotta be a specific person to be in a headspace to kill your friend and be cool with that.
Yep. I want to know how she would have reacted had she actually choked him out. What she would have done afterwards. She would have took his body and weighted it and dumped it. Like, what would she have been like?
Well, yeah,
do you think she would have done it in the moment and then 2 seconds later backed up and be like, oh shit, like, hold up, what the fuck have I done? Or once again, do you think she just wouldn't have cared? Who knows? Like,
she probably would have just left him there for everyone to find and then been like, fuck y'all.
Yeah, I agree with you though. Faith's total lack of remorse and her moral compass gone dark is pretty much my weekly Wiggins as well. All the things you said, was Xander wrapped up into it, how she was acting, like her choice that she makes at the end, all the things. All the things. That Slade moment. I'll go with mine. Giles knowing Faith was lying, which is a direct callback to your Shining Slayer. Like, just that in general was that Slade moment, just because of the actual physical words coming. He's been like, I know it was Faith, and Buffy just having that breath of relief and be like, oh shit, like, thank God, like, you have a fucking, I don't know, it just slays, like you said, his having a brain and being able to call shit, like, it's so smart and so like Giles to have called it. So that was great. But then I also had a little slash there, and I also put as a second up that Faith killing trick for Buffy was the other Slade moment for me.
Yeah, mine was the first one you said, but also my second one was obviously Angel, like, saving the shit out of Xander. So good timing.
For real. Slayerette predictions. So we do have the next episode to do, but first I wanted to ask you, what do you think this means for Faith moving forward, and where do you think this journey takes her?
I think that it's pretty clear she's fully leaning into joining forces with whatever is opposing any goodness right now.
Yes.
To sum it up.
That is very accurate. And the next episode 16, is entitled Doppelgangland.
Oh. I don't know. Does everyone have a doppelganger?
Someone does.
Doppelgang land makes it seem very like vast. Like more than one person would have a doppelganger. Unless it's a play on words for like the two slayers. Or something of that nature. I don't know. Obviously, there's a mirroring effect going on. I'll put it that way.
You're not wrong. I'm excited for you to watch this episode.
We'll be watching it together.
As I've said, exactly. All right, everyone. That concludes our coverage of Consequences. Let us know what you think of this major shift in Faith's arc. Did you guys see it coming, or were you blindsided by it also? How do you feel about her turning to the mirror and crossing over into darkness? And do you think Buffy shows a lot of care and concern for Faith being helped? And what do you think about Mr. Trick meeting his demise? Let us know. And until then, we'll meet you back here for the next one.
You and me, Faith, we're a lot alike. Time was, I thought humans existed just to hurt each other. Then I came here. And I found out that there are other types of people. People who genuinely wanted to do right. And they make mistakes. They fall down. Yeah, but they keep caring. Keep trying. If you can trust us, Faith, this can all change. You don't have to disappear into the darkness.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Buffy on Revamped. Remember to join us next week for a new episode release as we continue our journey through Sunnydale. We also would like to hear from you, so share your thoughts. Discuss with us your perspectives on this or previous week's episodes by following us on Instagram and sending us a DM at revamped_rewatch podcast.
Or by emailing us at revampedrewatchpod@gmail.com. Additionally, we will be choosing one of your messages to shout out in an upcoming episode release. And if you happen to love abandoned places but prefer them vampire-free, check out Echoes of Elsewhere, an urban exploration podcast, where I interview urban explorers about the eerie spaces they uncover, anything from haunted schools, forgotten mansions, and tunnels that probably don't lead to the Hellmouth. From history to mysteries, tips and tricks of the trade, I dive into all things Urbex. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time, the Earth is definitely doomed. This podcast is dedicated to the Buffyverse, to its fans, and my sister, Tiffany Dawn Pearson.